In the former class, I was explaining replication of DNA. DNA replication is also called DNA duplication. And I said earlier, Watson and Crick proposed that DNA replication is semi-conservative. That is, when two new DNA molecules are produced from a single parental DNA, the two new DNA molecules, both of them are again double-stranded, and one strand is old or parental and another strand, its complementary strand, is newly synthesized. So in each DNA molecule produced here, one of the strands is conserved. So out of the two strands, one is old. So 50% of the parental DNA is conserved, and hence the process is called semi-conservative. And the semi-conservative method of DNA replication, it has been experimentally proved by Michelson and Stahl. So in the former class, I gave the details about the experiment performed by these two persons, and ultimately this experiment proves that DNA replication is semi-conservative. Now more about this process of replication. Now DNA replication is a complex multi-step process. DNA replication is a complex multi-step process involving the participation of over a dozen enzymes, and other protein factors. So DNA replication is a complex multi-step process involving the participation of over a dozen enzymes and other protein factors. These enzymes of the DNA replication, they are highly efficient and bring about the polymerization of a large number of DNA nucleotides in a very small time. That is, the enzymes of replication, they are not only efficient, but they complete the process very fast. So the enzymes of DNA replication are highly efficient and bring about the polymerization very fast. For example, in E. coli bacterium, whose DNA has about 4 million base pairs, 4 into 10 to the power 6 base pairs, and these base pairs are being produced. Here the polymerization during replication, it completes within 38 minutes. So in E. coli bacterium, whose DNA consists of about 4 million base pairs, and here the polymerization of DNA nucleotides and the replication process completes within about 38 minutes. Now this amounts to, the rate of polymerization here is 2000 base pairs per second. It is not per minute, it is per second 2000 base pairs. This is the rate of polymerization. So you can just think of a second itself happened to be such a small time duration. So within a second, 2000 base pairs are being polymerized. So this is the efficiency of the enzymes, and the enzymes of replication are highly efficient and bring about polymerization very fast. Similarly, in the case of human, now in human cells, the diploid DNA amount, it is given as 6.6 into 10 to the power 9 base pairs. Now this is the length of the DNA. Now replication of DNA in a human cell, it completes in about 9 hours 15 minutes. In 9 hours 15 minutes, the DNA replication completes in this human cell. So all these data invariably present about the efficiency of the enzymes of the DNA replication, and not only they are efficient, they bring about polymerization very fast. Now these enzymes of the DNA replication, not only they are fast in bringing about polymerization process, but here the enzymes polymerize these DNA nucleotides with high degree of accuracy. So with high degree of accuracy, so during DNA replication, one of the strands will act as a template, and against this strand which acts as a template, a new strand of complementary variety will be newly synthesized. And during the synthesis of a new complementary strand, the complementary base pairing principle is strictly adopted, and the replication process completes with high degree of accuracy, usually without any error, without any mistake. And if any mistake or if any error occurs during DNA replication, that causes what is called mutation. So mutations generally are due to error during DNA replication. But most of the times DNA replication takes place with high degree of accuracy, without any mistake, without any error. And in case if a mistake or error occurs, and that mistake or error, if it is not been noticed and corrected, rectified, then a change in the DNA takes place, and this change in the DNA is called mutation. And hence most of the gene mutations are said to be copy error mutations, because they occur during DNA replication. Now, following are the various steps of replication process. So, DNA replication completes in following steps. Now, following are the steps involved in DNA replication. 1. Origin of replication. Origin of replication. Origin of replication. Abbreviation ORI. So, what is ORI? Origin of replication. Now, DNA replication begins at a specific point called origin of replication. So, what is origin of replication or ORI? DNA replication commences. DNA replication begins at a specific point, and this specific point where the DNA replication begins or commences, this is called origin of replication or ORI. Now, in prokaryotes, such as bacteria, even virus, so in these prokaryotes, the DNA has a single origin of replication. So, in bacteria and viruses, the DNA carries a single origin of replication, or there is a single ORI in the DNA of bacteria and virus, and the replication begins at this point, the origin of replication, in either direction. So, replication of DNA in bacteria and viruses begins at a single point called the origin of replication, and replication proceeds from this point bidirectionally in both the directions. Now, in eukaryotes, there are several origins of replication. So, here only one origin of replication, but in eukaryotes there are several origins of replication. And in all these origins of replication, process takes place, and ultimately they merge with one another, completing the process of DNA replication. Hence, the prokaryotic DNA acts as a single replication unit, or here the DNA in prokaryotes, the DNA acts as a single replicon. So remember this term replicon. So what is replicon? Unit of replication. So there is a single unit of replication in prokaryotes. So prokaryotic DNA acts as a single replication unit, or it acts as a single replicon. Whereas the eukaryotic DNA has multiple replicating units, or it has several replicons. So there is a single replicon in prokaryotes, and there are several replicons in eukaryotic DNA. So what is replicon? Replicating unit. So prokaryotes have single replicon and eukaryotes have several replicons. Now second step here is activation of deoxyribonucleotides. Activation of deoxyribonucleotides. Now earlier I said the raw materials for synthesis of any nucleic acid are the nucleoside monophosphates. Nucleoside monophosphates, they are the raw materials for synthesis of a nucleic acid. Now in DNA, the monophosphates, which are the raw materials for replication, are deoxyadenosine monophosphate, deoxyguanosine monophosphate, deoxycytidine monophosphate, deoxythymidine monophosphate. So these are the nucleotides of DNA. These are the nucleotides of DNA, and these nucleotides, these are the nucleotides of DNA, and these nucleotides of DNA, they form the raw materials. These are the raw materials for DNA replication or for DNA synthesis. So for DNA synthesis, for DNA replication, which are the raw materials? These are the raw materials for synthesis of DNA or for DNA replication. Now these nucleotides, DAMP, DGMP, DCMP and DTMP, all these nucleotides, these are present freely. They are present freely in the nucleoplasm of the nucleus. These are freely present in the nucleoplasm, the liquid content of the nucleus. the liquid part of the nucleus, the liquid content of the nucleus called the nucleoplasm, and freely present in the nucleoplasm of the nucleus are these raw materials. Now, even though these are the raw materials necessary for DNA synthesis or DNA replication, but they must be available in their activated form. Now, the activated form for all these, the activated forms of these, they are activated. Now, when these nucleotides of DNA are activated in the presence of ATP, they become corresponding triphosphates. They become corresponding triphosphates. So, deoxyadenosine triphosphate, deoxyguanosine triphosphate, deoxycytidine triphosphate, and deoxythymidine triphosphate. So, these are triphosphates. So, nucleoside triphosphate, and these are nucleoside deoxy, nucleoside monophosphates. So, these are nucleoside deoxy, nucleoside monophosphates, and these are nucleoside triphosphates. So, these are freely available in the nucleoplasm, the liquid content of the nucleus, and these are the raw materials for DNA synthesis, DNA replication. But even though these are the raw materials, but at the time of DNA synthesis, it is necessary to have the activated form of these. Which are the activated forms of these monophosphates? Their triphosphates are activated form. So, all these monophosphates are being activated, and this activation takes place in the presence of energy, that is ATP. So, in the presence of ATP, these monophosphates are activated and they are being converted into triphosphates, nucleoside triphosphates, and this is called phosphorylation. This is called phosphorylation and catalyzed by the enzyme phosphorylase. Phosphorylase enzyme bring about this process of phosphorylation, and by this process of phosphorylation catalyzed by phosphorylase enzyme, the monophosphates are being converted into triphosphates. So, these are the nucleoside triphosphates. So, monophosphates are being converted into triphosphates. This is phosphorylation or activation, and such phosphorylation or activation, it is catalyzed by phosphorylase enzyme utilizing energy from ATP. Now, these triphosphates are used. Triphosphate forms, instead of monophosphate form, the triphosphate forms are used for DNA synthesis. And here, the benefit of using these as raw materials for DNA synthesis is, now the triphosphates, this type of nucleotides, triphosphates instead of monophosphate nucleotides, triphosphates, when they are used, when they are available at the time of DNA synthesis or DNA replication, these triphosphates at the time of DNA synthesis, they break and yield monophosphate, which are the actual raw materials for DNA synthesis. So apart from providing monophosphates, the triphosphates, by losing two terminal phosphate groups, it liberates energy, and this energy is utilized for DNA synthesis. So here, at the time of DNA synthesis or DNA replication, even though these are the raw materials, but instead of them being used directly, in place of them, the triphosphate forms of these nucleotides are being used, and the benefit of using these triphosphates instead of monophosphate is the triphosphates at the time of DNA synthesis, they break, they hydrolyze and separate two terminal phosphates, setting free energy and getting themselves converted into monophosphate, and monophosphates are the raw materials for the synthesis of a new strand, and at the time of synthesis of a new strand, energy is required. So here, the raw materials as well as the necessary energy for DNA synthesis, both are being provided by these triphosphate forms of the nucleotides. So that is what the advantage of these triphosphates instead of monophosphates at the time of DNA synthesis or DNA replication, and therefore these monophosphate nucleotides, which are freely available in the nucleoplasm at the time of DNA synthesis or at the time of DNA replication, these are first converted into triphosphates, and this is called phosphorylation or activation. And phosphorylation or activation, it is catalyzed by the enzyme phosphorylase, and this occurs in the presence of ATP. So this is step 2. Now step 3, it is unwinding of DNA helix. Unwinding of DNA helix. Now during DNA replication, first the DNA helix, DNA duplex, it must uncoil and the two strands have to be separated. Now the DNA, its chemical structure is in the form of a double-stranded helix. Two strands are spirally coiled around a central axis and gain the configuration of a duplex, a double helix. Now such DNA double helix, DNA duplex, before it undergoes replication process, the double helix of DNA should uncoil, unwind. The coiling should be made uncoil so that the two strands of DNA get separated and each one will act as a model or a template against which a new strand of DNA is synthesized, and this is a complementary strand. So therefore, for DNA replication, first the two strands of the DNA should uncoil and separate. And uncoiling and separation is the primary necessity, primary need before the replication process commences. So only after uncoiling and separating the two strands of a DNA, each one will remain separate, and it acts as a model, it acts as a guide, it acts as a template against which a new strand of a new complementary strand of DNA is synthesized, and later the old strand, the template strand, and the new strand, the complementary strand, they again coil and restore the original DNA duplex form, DNA helix form. Now, separating the two strands of DNA is not easy. It is not easy to separate the two strands which are intertwined. So, the two strands of DNA which are intertwined, and separating these two intertwined strands of a DNA helix is not easy. It is very much like, see, the two ropes which have been coiled. So, when the two ropes which have been intertwined, when we separate them by applying a force, when you stop applying force, immediately they come and coil again. This is our common experience, this is our common observation, that to say you have a rope, and in this rope you have two halves, and the two halves in a rope, they are being tightly intertwined, and these two halves, these two parts of a rope which have been tightly twisted, tightly coiled, to separate them, one has to apply a force. So when you apply a force, they get separated. The moment you stop applying the force, again they come and intertwined. So separating two strands which are being spirally coiled in a DNA helix, it is not that easy to separate. But here, separation can be completed first by unwinding the two strands, and next cut one of the strand and again reseal. Then only they will remain separate. So similarly, as in the case of a rope having two halves, and if you have to separate the two halves of a long length, so DNA having two strands, this DNA is very long molecule, and during DNA replication, these two strands of the DNA, they should separate. And to separate this, see, when these two are being unwound, when they are separated, that will not be enough. When the two strands are being separated in a DNA helix or DNA duplex, one of the strands after separation, it should cut and reseal. Then only these two will remain separate, and the process of DNA replication can proceed. And this is being achieved during DNA replication by two categories of enzymes. There are two classes of enzymes, and these two classes of enzymes, they help in separating, and after separation they are being stabilized so that they remain separate and they do not coil again, and the process can proceed comfortably. Now, this is brought about by two categories of enzymes, two classes of enzymes. Now, these two categories of enzymes are: one, unwindases. So, you have one type of enzymes called unwindases. Now these unwindases, also called helicases, unwindases or helicases, these unwindases or helicases will separate the two strands of a DNA duplex. When two strands of DNA are separated at one end, there develops a tension at the other end. So to relieve the tension at the other end, out of the two strands which have been separated partly in the long DNA molecule, the separation process will commence at one end, and at the time of separation of the two strands at one end, when a part of the DNA has been separated, there will be a tension at the other end. So to relieve that tension at the other end, so that these two will remain separate. If the tension at the other end remains, then these two will again coil. So therefore, at the time of DNA replication, the DNA helix, DNA duplex, it should be undergo uncoiling and separation at one end. When the two strands are being separated at one end, there will be corresponding stress or tension at the other end. To relieve that tension, that stress at the other end, out of the two strands which have been separated, one of the strands should be cut and resealed. So if it has to be cut and resealed, then the tension at the other end will be relieved and these two strands will remain separate. And this is the role of another type of enzyme, and these enzymes are called DNA gyrases. DNA gyrases or topoisomerases or DNA gyrases. Now these are the two classes of enzymes that are responsible for unwinding of DNA helix. Now there are two types of enzymes here. One, unwindases or helicases. Now this is the long DNA. This is a long DNA helix. Now this is one strand having a polarity of 5' to 3'. This is the other strand, a complementary strand which runs from 3' to 5'. So these are two strands which are spirally coiled and twisted. At the time of DNA replication, see, these two strands will start separating at one end, at this end. So at this end, the two strands have been separated. Now during DNA replication, first the two strands have to be separated so that each strand will act as a template for the synthesis of a new strand. But separation of the two strands of a DNA helix will not take place throughout the length of the DNA in one stretch. So DNA being very long, and this long DNA, it cannot undergo separation of its two strands in one stretch, but always during the DNA replication, the separation of the two strands will take place in a stepwise manner, commencing at one end and gradually proceeding toward the other end. So here, at this end, the DNA has been separated. Now here, the two strands have been separated. Now separation of these two strands at this end of the DNA, this is brought about by this category of enzymes called unwindases or helicases. So helicases enzyme. So here are the helicases. You have helicases enzyme, and these helicases enzymes will separate these two strands at one end of the DNA. Now here, the rest of the DNA still remains in the same double helical form. The rest of the part of the DNA, it is still double stranded. It has not been uncoiled. Now here, uncoiling of DNA at this end, brought about by helicase enzyme, there will be tension at the other end. And this tension at the other end is relieved by cut and reseal of one of the strands. This is brought about by another set of enzymes, namely topoisomerases. So these are the enzymes. These enzymes include helicases and topoisomerases. So helicases and topoisomerases will separate the two strands of DNA at one end, and the stress or the tension that has been generated at the opposite end, this will be relieved by cut one of the strands and reseal. So after separation of these two, one of the strands will be cut and resealed, so that the tension that has been generated by the separation or uncoiling of these two at this end, the tension that has been generated here, that will be relieved, and these two strands will remain separate, and then each one will act as a template and a new strand will be synthesized. And this is how the separation of the two strands before the commencement of replication process takes place. This is being brought about by these two groups of enzymes, helicases and topoisomerases. Helicases are also called unwindases, and topoisomerases are also called DNA gyrases. Now here, these two strands after separation, they are being stabilized, that is, they remain separate. So after separation of these two strands, they are being stabilized so that the replication process takes place. Synthesis of a new DNA strand against each one of them will take place, and stabilizing these two strands after separation, this is brought about by helix destabilizing proteins. So we have here helix destabilizing proteins, and these helix destabilizing proteins, they stabilize these two strands, and hence the two strands will remain separate. Now here, after separation of these two strands at one end of the helix, and the rest of the DNA continues to remain in the helical state, original form, without being disturbed, this will produce a Y-shaped structure. Now this Y-shaped structure that is produced at one end where the DNA replication commences, this Y-shaped structure configuration that has been produced, this is called replication. This is called replication fork. This is called replication fork. So that is step 3, unwinding of DNA. helix. Now, after the formation of this replication fork, each strand of DNA will act as a template, and against this a new strand will be synthesized. So, here this will act as a template or a model, and a new strand will be synthesized, and this will act as a template or a model, another new strand will be synthesized. So, this is how the single strand, old strand and a new strand will be synthesized against this, and these two will form a new DNA duplex will be produced, a double-stranded new DNA molecule will be produced, and this process of replication will progress from this end to the other end, completing the process of replication. Now, how the synthesis of a new strand against these two which act as a template take place, so all those details we shall study in the next hour, in the next class.